You have to remember that a lot of CTV viewing is not ad-supported. The ad spending might not catch up to the audience adoption in the same way as it's done for TV, where the more people that are watching TV, the more advertising is connected to it because there's a very close linkage there.
Hey gang, it's Monday, March 21st. Scared myself a bit there. Oh, coming in hot. Paul and listeners, welcome to the Behind the Numbers Daily, an eMarketer podcast made possible by Mountain. I'm Marcus, and today I'm joined by our principal analyst who heads up our advertising and media practice. It's Paul Verna.
Great to be here. Happy spring.
Hey friend, thank you very much. Same to you. Today's fact: moths are not attracted to flames. So you know the saying, like a moth to a flame, when someone's attracted to something? Well, moths aren't actually attracted to flames. They are disorientated by them. Artificial light sources, so flashlights, things like that, or any light really that we made, have been around for an extremely short amount of time when compared to a moth's relationship with the sun and the moon. Many insects use light sources to navigate by day and night, helping them calculate how to fly in a straight line. If they see another light source that resembles the light from the sun or the moon, like a light bulb of any kind, it confuses it and it adjusts course until it sees the light as stationary again. Because you can get really close to an artificial light source, it just gets to it and then flies around it and around it and around it, unlike the sun, which it can obviously never reach.
Well, that makes me feel better. Do you know why?
Why?
Because I feel like I'm not alone in having mistaken a sign of attraction for something entirely different and then have it lead to a complete burnout.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Anyway, today's real topic, the Holy Grail of CTV. Paul, we're talking about CTV today, and what is the Holy Grail of CTV? What do our numbers look like at the moment? And there was an article that inspired this conversation we're about to have, titled "CTV Advertisers Are Betting QR Codes Aren't Just a Fad." It was written by Catherine Perloff of Adweek. And she continues by noting that QR codes were in Super Bowl ads like Rocket Mortgage and Coinbase, and they might be here to stay in CTV advertising. She says that beyond the attention at the Super Bowl, TV marketers see QR codes as the golden ticket for measurement and conversions. Paul, do you agree? Are QR codes for CTV ads the golden ticket?
I don't know if they're the golden ticket, because I don't know if there's a single golden ticket, but they're definitely a real thing and something that can certainly be a great way to drive conversions on CTV. The number of people in the US who use QR code scanners is going to hit close to 100 million by 2025. And the applications of QR codes go far beyond the TV screen to places like restaurants and out-of-home ads and a lot more. So I think there's a lot of interest in QR codes, a lot of consumer behavior that's building up around that activity, which of course bodes well for CTV. So yeah, I mean, I think the Super Bowl ad was a case in point of basically like the tip, I don't know if tipping point, but certainly like a coming out moment for QR codes in the mainstream. Although I think the design of that ad, it could have been anything other than a QR code and it would have gotten interest just because of the way that ad was designed to look sort of like an old Tetris, game interface. It was like the old screensavers for computer screens. And also it had this sort of like look of like the old, Pac-Man and Tetris games, like the very, very early computer games.
Yes.
But obviously the fact that it was a code and that people knew they could scan it meant that, they did scan it and it actually caused the Coinbase site to crash. So, indication, a good problem, I guess.
Yeah. So that's probably a big reason to your point why over 20 million people scanned Coinbase's ad. And then they were taken to, set up a Coinbase account, the chance to redeem about $15 of free Bitcoin.
Yeah.
But it did feel like a bit of a turning point for some reason, right, Paul? I mean, you mentioned some numbers on QR code scanners. Over 83 million US smartphone users will scan a QR code in 2022 this year, according to our numbers. That's 10% up on last year. That's nearly 60% up on 2019. But Paul, for this to take off, it does seem as though, and I don't know if this is possible because I never tried it, but it does seem as though these QR codes are going to need to be, the on-screen, on TV screen QR codes are going to need to be scannable from the couch. Because I can't see myself jumping up every commercial to go run towards the screen and scan it before, the 20-second spot or 30-second spot is over.
Absolutely. I had the same idea, and I think we can, I don't know at what point we want to segue to that part of the conversation, but there's more that I think TV or connected TV can and probably will do to engage with the large numbers of people who are on their smartphones while they're watching TV. So QR codes is just one of them.
Okay, so talk to me about that. Yeah, because the Adweek article was citing Chief Product Officer of Ad Exchange, Sharethrough, Kurt Larson, saying, quote, "You have a phone in your hand, you have a TV in front of you. It's the only way you can bridge those two worlds," close quote, talking about QR codes. What other ways can CTV advertisers bridge the gap between the TV and I'll say the smartphone, but really the TV and the person?
Yeah. Well, I think audio is actually a capability that has not really fully been exploited. You have pretty much every smart TV has this audio content recognition technology built into it that's actually used to measure video ads. So that could be leveraged potentially. You also have a lot of people with smart speakers or voice assistant technology, and that could be leveraged. And then, I have seen some TV or connected TV commercials that use Shazam to, identify a piece of audio. So that could be sort of like a gateway into the screen. I think there are other ways. I mean, I think back to the Oreo quick thinking moment in the Super Bowl in 2013 where what
was that?
There was a blackout during the Super Bowl and Oreo just sent out a tweet saying you can dunk in the dark and got a lot of engagement. To me, that was an example of very quick thinking and very creative thinking by a brand, taking advantage of that realization that people are going to be on their phones while they're watching TV. So I don't know specifically how marketers can do it, but I do know that they're going to be challenged to do a lot more connecting of those dots, especially because now the identifiers that powered that kind of cross-app tracking are basically being eroded. So it puts even more of an onus on the marketer to come up with ingenious ways to basically tap into the fact that that person who's watching the connected TV screen most likely has a smartphone or a tablet on hand.
So fast forward a couple of years and we're having this conversation. Am I saying to you, well, Paul, the main way that people interact with CTV ads today is fill in the blank. Is it QR codes? Is it Shazamming audio from their smartphone, using their smartphone from the TV? What do you think is going to be the main way that folks engage?
I think the main way probably will be QR codes, but I think all those other ways will also be used. And to your point, I think the QR code does need to evolve where you can basically scan it from far away. They have evolved quite a bit. I mean, earlier on, you had to launch a specific app that read a QR code and it wasn't that user friendly. Now, basically all of the phone camera software platforms automatically read QR codes. So all you have to do is point your phone at it. So I think, the idea that, you have to be able to basically aim it from the couch and maybe zoom in or do something that captures it. That I think will have to happen, but that doesn't seem like an insurmountable problem.
Right. Yeah, it's really just the size, from what I understand, the size of the QR code dictates how far away you can hit it from.
Yeah. And in most cases, that QR code is not going to be large because the marketer doesn't want to take up the whole screen with a QR code. I mean, the Super Bowl commercial was an exception in that regard. But I think in general, the QR code is going to kind of live in a corner of the screen. So it'll be a technical and a creative challenge. But, there are greater minds than me out there, you, for example, and somebody will figure it out.
That's not true, but thank you. But to your point, though, does it need to live in the corner? Because there was some literature I was looking at for this episode, and it was suggesting that, well, this was for an outdoor billboard, so maybe that's a different case. But they were saying, hey, make sure that the QR code has a pretty prominent role so people don't miss the fact that they can scan something. Should it be right in the corner? Should it be kind of woven into the commercial? I mean,
I have seen people get more creative with the look and the design of QR codes. So I would think it's possible to even embed it into the commercial in a way that's not even visible to the audience and have, just give people a clue that they need to scan now. And then if they point almost anywhere at the screen, it'll capture that code. Mm-hmm. I think the variations are going to be pretty wide. In some cases, the creative of the ad is going to lend itself to just having a big code there and having people scan it. But there are definitely going to be times when that's not going to be practical, either because the ad is too short or it just doesn't go with the look of the ad.
Right. Yeah, lots of different ways that people can, or marketers can work their QR codes into their advertising. And there was a quote from that article from Miss Perloff from Adweek, and the quote was saying that ad tech and media buyer sources had told Adweek that advertiser interest in QR code TV ads has been growing since late last year, though the 3 Super Bowl ads, this year's Super Bowl, with QR ads certainly stoked curiosity. So it does feel like a bit of a turning point to some extent. Paul, I want to quickly turn to our CTV ad spending numbers for a second and figure out where you land on how optimistic or pessimistic you are based on the figures we have. So we've got $19 billion in connected TV ad spend for this year in the US, 19 billion, 19. And that's going to be up about 32% on last year. But there's 2 ways of looking at this. Well, there's probably a lot of ways, but I've got 2 ways for you. I want you to choose one. So A, do you think our CTV ad spending numbers are A, healthy because they will reach half of TV ad spend by 2025? Or B, do you consider them low because CTV will only account for 11% of digital ad spend by then? So healthy because it's going to be half of linear by 2025, or low because CTV, for all of its growth, will only account for 11% of digital ad spend by 2025.
I'm definitely on team A on this one.
Okay.
And
talk to me.
Yeah. Well, you have to remember that a lot of CTV viewing is not ad supported. I mean, Netflix and Amazon and a lot of platforms that are currently not ad supported or that are hybrid, but largely viewed, without ads. So the ad spending might not catch up to the audience adoption in the same way as it's done for TV, where, the more people that are watching TV, the more advertising is connected to it because there's a very close linkage there. So with CTV, I think
that makes a lot of sense, because really quickly, I was looking at some of the numbers for penetration and I was like, well, the ad spend numbers are very low considering 70 to 80% of people under the age of 58 watch CTV. And even those over the age of 58, half of them watch CTV. And that's because, to your point, ad supported hasn't caught up with the number of people who can watch CTV through a subscription. Yeah.
The other thing is, I think the data point you cited about the relationship between CTV and ad spending or digital ad spending overall, I think that's a little bit of a misleading stat also, because a lot of digital ad spending is search or now retail media or things like social media, which actually includes video. So you have a lot of spending that, all of those forms of spending are healthy and growing, as is CTV. So it's sort of like an all boats rising scenario, but it's not a scenario where one of those is going to necessarily dominate over the other. So I don't see that CTV having a relatively small share of that overall digital pie is a knock on CTV at all. I think it's part of the story of digital advertising just being so broad-based and so healthy across the board.
Yeah, well, there's a quote from one of your colleagues, Ross Benish, who's on your desk, covers TV and video for us. He was saying by the end of 2025, CTV ad spend will be more than half of linear TV ad spending. But he also goes on to say, when we first forecast CTV ad spending in 2019, it was less than 1/10 of TV ad spending. So it is moving quickly.
Yep.
That's all we've got time for the lead. Time now for the halftime report. Paul, we'll grab a takeaway from you if we could from the first half.
My takeaway is that the connected TV is going to be the center of the universe when it comes to advertising. And that includes pretty much everything we talked about, the QR codes, the connection with the smartphone, and just top line ad spending growth on connected TV.
That is all we've got time for the lead. Time now for In Other News, but first, a quick word from our sponsor, Mountain. As connected TV's viewership expands, so too does the opportunity for marketers to use it as an effective performance ad channel. Mountain Performance TV is built with that in mind. Their connected TV marketing software solution is tailor-made to drive highly qualified site traffic and deliver fully measurable conversions and revenue. And by running ads solely on premium streaming networks, you can rest assured that your ads are effective and brand safe. Visit mountain.com to learn more. All right, folks, we are back today in other news. Testing alternatives to Nielsen's TV ratings, and baseball season is saved, but viewing challenges remain. Story 1. Last summer, the Media Rating Council, or MRC, found that long-time TV measurement leader Nielsen had undercounted TV viewership by 2 to 6%. This lost them their MRC accreditation in September for local and national ratings. And in January of this year, insider intelligence analyst Daniel Konstantinovich wrote that this prompted networks like Warner Media, Viacom CBS, and NBC Universal to say they'd soon be launching their own rating services for first-party data, fracturing the industry. And in February of this year, insider intelligence analyst Nina Getson noted that the Association of National Advertisers, or ANA, will soon begin testing alternatives to Nielsen's TV ratings panel per Ad Age. But where are they all at now? Paul, the current leader in the TV measurement race is blank.
No one. I don't think there is a leader. And I think that goes to your point about the fracturing of the space. I mean, I think you have these big media conglomerates like Viacom CBS and NBC Universal and Warner Media. They're obviously in a position to launch these platforms that deliver a lot of data to their advertisers, which is what advertisers need. But on the other hand, these are network specific, so they're not going across the whole industry. And then with the ANA, I think what they're looking at is an even broader spectrum where they're just trying to look at any measurement proposal that meets criteria. But I really don't think we're going to come back to any kind of truly consensus-based solution the way Nielsen was.
Story 2. Baseball season is saved, but viewing challenges remain, especially when it comes to TV advertisers and the sport's hardcore TV viewers, writes Wayne Friedman of MediaPost. The MLB finally ended its lockout as the 30 team owners and the MLB Players Union agreed to a new CBA, collective bargaining agreement. But there are still viewership concerns, according to Mr. Friedman. A report from Samba TV says older, higher-income households with white viewers are the biggest MLB fans, and most of these viewers are watching on linear TV, not streaming. A 2021 Sports Business Journal survey said that the MLB had the oldest fans with an average age of 57. That's versus the NBA's average viewer age of 42, 15 years younger, followed by the NHL at 49, that's 8 years younger than the MLB, and the NFL at 50, that would be 7 years younger than the MLB in terms of average age of the viewer. Paul, the biggest viewing challenge for baseball, in your opinion, is blank.
The nature of the game. The nature of the game dovetails into the demographics. I wish I could come up with a better explanation or comparison than George Carlin did when he did his famous comparison between baseball and football. And for anyone who hasn't heard it or read it or seen it, I encourage you to look it up. So just look up George Carlin, baseball and football. But just to quickly quote from it, he says, baseball is a 19th century pastoral game and football is a 20th century technological struggle. Baseball is played on a diamond in a park. Football is played on a gridiron in a stadium, sometimes called Soldier Field or War Memorial Stadium. So George Carlin's point is that football is more made for modern times, you know, for better or for worse than baseball is. And I think that's kind of at the core. You know, baseball is very slow paced. There's just a lot about it that doesn't conform to the way young people and the way society in general approaches sports anymore, sadly, because I love baseball.
Yeah. It's true. 2 points from me. According to a number of estimates, national TV spending on MLB TV networks for the 2021 season was roughly $500 million, including postseason business as well. So according to the article from MediaPost. And I thought it was interesting, Paul, as well, that the MLB, according to ESPN, will now allow advertising patches on jerseys and helmets. Mm-hmm. Be like the Formula One before you know it.
Yeah.
Or NASCAR, covered in logos. Yeah. That is all we've got time for this episode. Thank you so much, Paul, for hanging out.
Always a pleasure.
Yes, sir. Thank you to Victoria. She edits the show. Thanks to everyone listening in. We'll see you tomorrow, hopefully, for the Behind the Numbers Daily, an eMarketer podcast made possible by Mountain. It's like Vegas, isn't it? You like see that light, you see all the lights, you go over there, you're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
You're like, nothing,
Yep.
nothing important.
Yeah.
Just kidding, Vegas. Love you.